On this edition of The Best Times, we'll show you the many ways that romance is ageless. You'll meet a woman who spent a lifetime as an activist. And we'll discuss why you should have a will. All on this edition of The Best Times. Funding for The Best Times is provided by... Since 1988, the H.W. Durham Foundation has been focused on aging issues, providing grants to programs like The Best Times to enrich and improve the quality of life for our older citizens. The Best Times is the only monthly news magazine exclusively for the age 50-plus reader. Your copy is free at over 200 locations, with important stories and news you don't want to miss. The Best Times is always the best. Trezevant, a life care community, a celebration of life. The responsible decision for your well-being now and in the long term. And being responsible has never been such a hoot. TrezevantManor.org. For those with significant others, Valentine's Day is a time for flowers and gifts, perhaps a romantic dinner for two, or a heart-shaped box of candy. Forrest Gump's mother said, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." Well, maybe love is like that too. For those who are over 50 and find themselves suddenly single through death or divorce, Valentine's is more like Singles Awareness Day, a time to think about love that's been lost. But maybe we can find love again, because romance is ageless. When Thomas Edison invented the kinetograph, one of the first things he filmed was this kiss. It was a box office smash in 1896. But what made him train his lens on this subject? Why are we so fascinated with romance? Well, maybe it's in our genes.
I have a new puppy, and there's this feeling that I get when I get home and that puppy welcomes me and that puppy can love me and I can love that puppy. Now that may not be, the psychologists may think that's hogwash or whatever, but I just think we're wired for love, we're wired for touch, we're wired for, sentiment, we're wired for romance.
I mean, there's just a real human need to connect. I think it's a basic human need. It's a higher order need than food, water, shelter, but it is the thing that makes life meaningful.
Hester Moore married young and has been divorced for 17 years. Now in her 50s, she's convinced that she'll find a mate and marry.
I just like the sanctity of marriage. I love that feel of a husband. And
she knows anything is possible. After all, her mother remarried at age 85 after 40 years of dating.
She was 85 and he was 70. Stella got a groove back. I have hope. I'm serious. I do. I believe he's out there.
About 90% of men and women over 50 are or have been married. But longer lifespans and higher divorce rates have escalated the single adult population to record numbers. According to U.S. Census statistics from 2006, more than a third of Americans over 50 are divorced, widowed, separated, or have never married. It's no wonder that online dating sites like Match.com have seen their over 55 membership nearly double in the past 2 years.
Well, my first attempt at online dating was Match.com. I thought with Dr. Phil that should be absolutely wonderful.
Rhonda Captino has been divorced and widowed. Now single again and in her 50s, she's determined to use whatever tools are available, including the internet, to make a connection.
there were a few that we emailed enough that I could tell I wasn't interested. There were a couple, 3 that we talked on the phone enough that I could tell I wasn't interested. And then finally there was one I was interested in. We were having dinner and he was nice enough, and it was nice to finally have a face with the voice on the phone, and you know, everything was going good. So we order a drink and things are going good. We had a little appetizer and things are good. And then over the salad, he couldn't even wait until dessert, which I would have felt much better about. He says, well, he says, I guess you know I'm married. And I said, well, I guess you know I don't.
Barbara Prescott views these online dating and social websites as another way for 50-plus singles to network safely.
What you really want to do is to enlarge your circle in a safe way. And even if they don't find a match on eHarmony or Match.com or whatever it is that they do, it gets them back into the process of dating.
Dating has always been about meeting people. In today's terms, we'd call it networking. The internet is one way to network in the modern world. Churches offer another opportunity to meet people. This is the Sunday morning single service at Hope Presbyterian. Singles of all ages come to worship and have fellowship. Many churches also sponsor or provide meeting sites for divorce recovery seminars, grief sharing workshops, even exercise classes that provide the opportunity for people to meet and network.
Maybe you don't meet someone there, but again, you're networking and you're enlarging your kind of circle of friends. I think that's important. Beginning to pursue activities that you enjoy will typically put you in contact with other individuals who have that in common with you. So that also is an avenue.
I have joined an organization here in town called ENOD.
ENOD is one of the secret societies of Carnival Memphis. What makes it unique is that its membership is limited to singles over the age of 30, and the organization tightly controls the ratio of women to men to keep the numbers even. Ron Kirkpatrick has found this to be an easier way of meeting women.
It needs to be easy, and if it isn't easy, don't try to force it, especially at our age. The way I try to meet people are again through organizations like ENOD, getting involved in some church organizations. I'm involved a little bit over at Hope, and I'm looking at some other churches that have large groups for singles.
Whether it's online or on the dance floor, meeting people is the first challenge. Dating is a different matter entirely.
I was surprised that it was so difficult. It was quite easy 30 years ago.
But even at 51 years old, you can meet somebody, and if it doesn't work out, it's as painful as when you're 18 years old, I can tell you that.
I never would have thought at the age of 50-something I would deal with guys 50-something that want to play around. They don't want to be serious.
You're self-conscious. You know, you're 50. You're not thinking of yourself as appealing as maybe you used to be, and will someone want to go out with you a second time? And it's just a real risky kind of thing.
But despite the risks involved, people still feel the need to connect with that special someone.
You know, I love dating and I would love to meet somebody. I don't know. I just, you know, Oprah says that every time you leave the door, you need to leave the door like you're going to meet somebody that day. So you have to look the part.
I guess I'd just like to be surprised. I'm open to it if it happens, but it's okay if it doesn't.
I don't enjoy dating. I enjoy having someone special that I enjoy being with and investing time and energy in that one individual. Now I haven't, well, I thought I did find her, but it didn't work out, and so I'm back out there again.
So finding love in your 50s is just as hard as it was in your 20s. But sometimes love can find you when you least expect it. It's the wedding day for Jan Vanderhaar and Ed Wallen. He's 81 and she's 10 years younger. Both had long and successful first marriages that ended with the deaths of their spouses. Ironically, Jan and Ed met at a grief-sharing workshop.
She was invited to the same group, and we eventually got closer and closer. Very attracted to one another. And
Neither was actively looking for a new partner, but their attraction to one another led to their first impromptu date after a church event.
I said, they're not providing any food here at the church after the talk, and I said, maybe I should invite her out for dessert, thinking she already had dinner. And then she said, well, I'm going to have dinner. And then I said, uh-oh, I'm going to get stuck for the dinner. So anyway, we went to this nice restaurant on Midtown and had dinner, and we closed the place that night.
We just talked.
We had 3 priests for the wedding, I guess to make sure that it would stick. But anyway, one of the priests, he had a great sense of humor. He said, well, he told the congregation, he says, you know, they're kind of percolating because she'd be on one side of the church and he'd be on the other. And then every few Sundays they were getting closer. And then he said, they came in together this particular Sunday. And so he says, I got something I want to play. So he started recording in the church during the ceremony. He said this was a song that was a hit song the same year that Ed was born, 1928, Side by Side.
Jan and Ed have been side by side now for just over a year. Some people have told them that their marriage has given them hope. They see themselves as blessed.
So many people said, you guys you look and act like teenagers.
Well, sometimes we do. Anyway.
Well, we feel very blessed.
Yeah.
Very blessed. A lot of people ask me, are you happy? I say, I'm so happy I could explode.
I was 13 and he was 16. He thought I was much older, but he gave me my first kiss because of the Spin the Bottle. I was it. Along came Pearl Harbor. And he graduated at 17 and volunteered for the Navy and went into the war, and we wrote for a while, and then we stopped. And so we really didn't see each other again for over 50 years.
Joy Jemison and Sam Nichols' love affair didn't end with Pearl Harbor, but their lives took very different paths. After the war, Sam settled in Portland, Oregon, married and had 2 children. Joy studied voice at Juilliard in New York, then traveled to Europe before marrying and raising 2 children in Colorado. For nearly 60 years, they led separate lives. Each heard that the other had died, and that would have been the end of their story, but for Sam's sister Millie and email.
Later, the phone rang early in the morning, and this female voice said, Joy, this is a voice from the past. I said, oh, who is this? And she said, this is Millie Gustafson. I'm Sam Nichols' little sister. And I said, oh, what happened to Sam? And she said, oh, he's living out in Arizona. And I just about flipped. I couldn't believe it. We began emailing each other. And that, to me, is the beauty of our story, because we could go into depths, not only just to find out what had happened in the last 50 years, but we exchanged ideas and our philosophy of life and what was important to us. And that, to me, is what made our love such a deep one, because it was a few months later that he finally came to see me, and we were like teenagers again. When we saw each other, it was, I don't know, the old magic was just still there. Nothing had ever changed, really, even though it was a long time after.
I never forgot this lady. I never forgot that romantic early childhood period.
I really had no intention of ever marrying again, but I did want a boyfriend.
Initially, that's what she wanted from me.
But when
Not
you
really
fall,
married,
I didn't
no.
think it was possible at that age to fall in love. And I certainly didn't need a husband, so I didn't want one. But when you fall deeply in love, you want that commitment. You really have to have it.
In 2001, after a lifetime apart, Joy and Sam were married. The dictionary defines activism as a policy or action of using vigorous campaigning to bring about political or social change. And that is the perfect definition of Velma Lois Jones.
Are you prepared to take the oath, Senator?
I am.
And will, to the best of my ability...
A new chapter in American history was written with the inauguration of Barack Obama as the first African-American president. For Velma Lois Jones, it was an historic moment that she never thought she would live to see.
Never in my lifetime. And that's why I say we have truly come a long way.
Velma Lois Jones was born in Memphis, graduating from Manassas High School in 1948. And receiving her Bachelor of Education degree from Lemoyne College in 1952. She began a teaching career that would span 50 years, first in elementary school, then teaching junior high math. In 1996, she was nominated for the Teacher of the Year Award. She served 1 year as president of the Memphis Education Association and 6 years as president of the Tennessee Education Association. It was a career that she was passionate about.
I would rush to go to my job in the morning, and just to watch children learn and how they learn was so encouraging. And to see their eyes brighten up and say, I got it, especially in math, it was so rewarding.
She became just as passionate about the racial injustice she experienced, and her desire for change, for a better life, thrust her into the front lines of the civil rights movement.
Having to sit on the back of the bus. I'm very conscious of this. Going in the stores and you can't try on the shoes, you can't try on the clothes, you can't try on the hats, but you got to buy them and you're going to pay the same price. So I grew up with that consciousness, you know, why the difference?
She never missed a march. The movement became a mission. And when the sanitation strike took place in 1968, she was instrumental in bringing Dr. Martin Luther King to Memphis.
He was interested in every man being given the dignity and the worth that God put us here for. Now, he was compassionate about that. And he could generate you into and energize you to just want to do as much as you could. And I think he was just sent from God. I think he was like one of those chosen ones.
The death of Martin Luther King didn't stop the mission. In 1971, Velma became the first woman president of the local NAACP, serving for 4 years. The days of marches and boycotts may be over, but the need for passionate leadership remains. Velma has found a new mission with the work of AARP in America.
Well, I was a member of this chapter, and I'm in the chapter at the Lewis Center, AARP 2443.
In October of last year, Velma was named the leader of AARP's Memphis Regional Impact Team. She's working to identify issues that affect the 50-plus population and engaging volunteers and legislators to push for change.
The top concerns we've been hearing has to do with health care. And as we go older, that's primary with us, because if you don't feel good, you're not going to be much good to yourself, and you certainly won't be any good to anybody else. The other thing is economic security. we want to be sure that Social Security stays in place, that it's improved upon. We don't want to get rid of it. Our RT group had a session with the Shelby County legislators over at the Commission on Aging to talk about these issues, what they can do and what we can do to help them do what they can do with regarding legislation.
For over 60 years, Velma Lois Jones has been an activist in the classroom, in the civil rights movement, and now in her role with the AARP. And through it all, she's tried to make a difference.
But somebody's got to do it, so what do you say? Who's going to do it? You do it? You do it. Why not me? And I think all of us ought to take that attitude. And the more of us that's out there trying to make a difference, the better it's going to be for all of us.
What happens to our personal property after we die? No one likes to dwell on that thought, and maybe that's why a recent internet survey revealed that nearly 60% of Americans don't have a will. Should you have a will? What happens if you die without one? Here are some questions and answers. What is a will?
A will is a legal document that pertains to how we are going to, or how one would transfer assets at death. And that would be assets that you own in your sole and individual name, whether that be a home, bank account, CDs, savings, personal effects, your jewelry, those items. So these are things that you've accumulated over your lifetime.
Who should have a will?
Anyone 18 years of age and older should consider having a will. Should everyone have it? I would tend to say yes. However, there are exceptions to it. If someone is disposing of all of their property, leaving their property through beneficiary designations or transfer on death accounts, then that can take care of most things. However, if there are minors involved or if there's a trust that we want to establish, we should use a will to do that.
What if you die without a will?
Everybody has a will. It's just a matter of whether or not it says what we want it to.
If you don't have a will, the state that you reside in will have statutes and law that will dictate how those assets will be transferred, and 9 times out of 10 that's not going to be what your intent is.
Can you make a do-it-yourself will?
The do-it-yourself books or forms that are available on the internet many times can work just fine, especially for simple wills. However, a disadvantage to it is it's not personal, and meaning that you don't get to ask the questions. And not only that, but there's not an attorney across the table asking you, well, have you thought about this? And giving you a list of items that you should think about.
When should you use an attorney?
If you have a unique situation that needs to be addressed, you have a special need family member, you are concerned that someone may contest your will. If you have a large estate, not going to an attorney and having that drafted can create lots of problems on the back end.
How much does a lawyer charge?
A simple will would be $250 to $400, somewhere in that price range, just depending upon the attorney. For a married couple, simple wills, probably $500 to $750. For wills that have tax planning or trust involved in it, probably looking at $750 to $1,500.
What information and documents are required?
I ask a client to, one, bring a sheet, financial statement if you will, so I'm going to list my 401ks, my retirement accounts, my bank accounts, my certificates of deposit, my home. I'm going to look at life insurance. I'm going to also look at any items that I might have that are collectibles and inventory those. And it's very, very critical that you also specify how that asset is titled.
Want more information about life after 50? Go to our website, wkno.org/besttimes. And while you're online, click over to Next Avenue, PBS's website where grown-ups keep growing. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Hardaway. Good night. Funding for The Best Times is provided by Trezevant, a life care community, a celebration of life. The responsible decision for your well-being now and in the long term. And being responsible has never been such a hoot. TrezevantManor.org. The Best Times is the only monthly news magazine exclusively for the age 50-plus reader. Your copy is free at over 200 locations, with important stories and news you don't want to miss. The Best Times is always the best. Since 1988, the H.W. Durham Foundation has been focused on aging issues, providing grants to programs like The Best Times to enrich and improve the quality of life for our older citizens.